Hey, good morning, Roger.
Morning, Kev. I have a landscape question for you.
Shoot.
What would you do with a tree that the top 2/3 are beautiful and the bottom 6 feet is ravaged?
Oh, okay. Turn it upside down.
I don't think that's quite a good option, yeah.
All right. I got another one. Let's see. Pile the mulch up higher.
What did I teach you about mulch?
I don't remember that, but I know what I would do.
What?
I'd call you in.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Hey, see
Well,
ya.
good morning. I'm Kevin O'Connor, and welcome back to Ask This Old House. Hey, Richard.
Good morning.
Hey, no tough questions for me, please.
I won't.
All right, what are you up to?
Today I'm off to Tampa, Florida.
Tampa.
I got an email from a homeowner that said anytime they turned on the faucets, they got more than water that came out of the faucets. Any faucet.
Really?
They got this brown stuff.
Ugh, what is that?
Well, these are actually beads of resin. Here's actually one of the outside garden faucets right here, completely clogged up.
Okay, beads of resin.
Well, beads of resin are an important part of a water softener, designed to remove any calcium or magnesium that makes water hard.
Okay, so what don't we like about hard water?
But with hard water, it's difficult to create suds, and that means it's difficult to feel clean, whether or not it's your dishes, your laundry, or your body.
Okay, and this is a big problem.
It is. Many parts of the country suffer with it.
So it's off to Tampa.
Tampa it is. Tampa Bay, Florida. A little slice of paradise. And the sunsets on the Gulf of Mexico, breathtaking. Since the 1700s, it's been home to Cuban fishermen, and the connection to Cuba still remains evident. In Ybor City, you can get a Cuban sandwich and walk right next door and see a cigar hand rolled. Now that's a good cigar.
Welcome to Tampa, Richard.
Why, thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Richard, about a month ago, we found beads clogging up all the faucets and toilets.
So what'd you do?
Well, Richard, I'm a vascular surgeon, and I unclog and reconnect human plumbing. So how hard is it to do house plumbing?
So we're like brothers?
Well, kind of.
Well, what happened is that these beads got out of your water softener. Let me just explain about hard water. In this area, when rainwater comes from the sky, comes down through the ground, it goes through the aquifer. And this aquifer is limestone. When that water goes through the limestone, it picks up calcium. Now, the water comes in through this water softener, and it goes down into this first tank, and the first tank is filled with these beads, and these beads have a negative charge. Now, that means the calcium is attracted to those beads of resin and stays right in this first canister. Now, the water continues down through, comes back up here, goes into the house as soft water. So once a day, you're going to regenerate the unit using a brine solution here. The brine comes into this tank, flushes away that calcium to a drain, and it also makes those ion resins attracted again to calcium. So what I think happened in your case is this. Here's the unit, and down at the very bottom, there's a basket. Now that basket is cracked. See that?
So that's how the beads got in the house.
Exactly.
So what should we do?
We should call a specialist, somebody that does this all the time and gets you back with soft water.
Sounds great.
Rick Johnson is the water quality expert around these parts. So do you see a lot of this, Rick?
Unfortunately, we do, Richard. The amount of chlorine in the water, it just tears up plastic parts in it.
All right, let me get this control head right out of our way.
Okay, we're going to pull this tank out of here. Empty it out.
All right, into this tank?
Into this tank.
Just grab that, Chris. Okay, let's go, Rick. Here we go?
Yep.
Here it comes, all the resin's dumping out. Keep coming. Tip it up a little more.
Wow, there's a lot.
All right, so now we want to flush it out?
Yep, we're going to clean it out with the hose.
All right, that should do it?
That should do it. We're going to dump this in the barrel and get rid of it.
All right, good. Now, here we go. All right, careful. All right, so is that clean enough?
That's clean enough. It's time to rebuild the tank.
All right, so here's our new manifold tube, they call it, with a basket at the bottom, so no resin gets up inside there. All right, what about the control head, Rick?
Richard, that's 9-10 years old. It's got a lot of plastic parts. We need to replace it.
All right, so I'm going to go new control head, all right? That sits right down on top here. All right, so now city water comes in right here, and it drops out through this diffuser basket right there.
Right. And then it rains down through the resin.
All right, so all those beads of resin sit right up in here. This is what they look like new, Chris. Look at that.
Wow, what a difference.
And you really want to make sure you get these changed pretty regularly so that they don't lose their effectiveness.
Okay.
So the water's coming through all those beads of resin.
Correct, Richard. And it goes down and goes through this gravel bed.
All right, so at the very bottom we have gravel. What's that do?
But it helps hold the manifold, plus it works as a filter.
So ready to rebuild?
We're ready to rebuild, Richard. We'll put the manifold in the tank.
I'll do that.
I'll grab the tape.
All right, so you want to seal this so no gravel or beads of resin go inside
Correct.
it. That's a good idea. And I'll hold it right there. All right, with that sealed, now we can put our gravel and beads in?
Correct.
All right, so I'll hold it down at the bottom. Grace, why don't you grab that gravel for us, all right?
All right.
Okay. Dump that right in.
That in.
How much? All of it?
No, about half of this, Richard. Control it a minute. Okay, that's good. Now we're ready for our resin beads.
All right, good. There we go. Ooh. Is this good for you? Do you fill it all the way up?
No, about 15 inches from the top, Richard.
Okay.
Grace, why don't you pull that tape off? We won't need that anymore.
Okay.
Good. I will put the new control head in, drop it over the manifold tube, and then thread it in place. Just hold that tank for me. So our control head is mounted on the tank, and that has its own new valve right here. So what we've done is we've modified all the plastic piping with elbows and new pieces of pipe. We've got the cold water into the tank right here, and this is the water that leaves the tank as softened water goes into the house. With that, the bead tank, or the resin tank, is pretty well done. On this side, we also have another tank, and that's filled with blocks of sodium or salt. That makes a brine solution. Now, the brine solution is important during the regeneration process when we bring the brine over into this tank so that we can flush the calcium off of those beads of resin. Why don't you make that connection, Rick? So the brine comes in at this point. We flush the beads of the calcium, and now it wants to go to the discharge, which is this pipe right here. Why don't you make that connection too for me? All right, through that discharge will be all the byproducts of the water softener, the calcium that was attached to the beads. We don't want that to go into the house. We want to discharge it to the drain. All right, guys, with all our connections made, it's time to turn it on. There it is. Good. Now, what does Grace have to do to make sure this thing runs right for the long haul?
Just basically keep salt in it, either block or pellet.
All right, I can see the big block down there, but you can also use pellets, and that creates a brine solution. Now, there's also a timer over here that sends that brine solution over to flush out the beads. How often do you want to set that to work?
Well, it depends on where you live. In this area, about every 3 days.
Okay, so I can hear it right there. Yeah, discharge it.
And how often should I have a maintenance person here to service this?
Once a year.
Well, Rick, thank you for your good work. It's like brand new, and you will have the softest water in town.
Thank you both so much.
You know, Kevin, any water softener has two things you have to maintain. One are the resin beads that right here, and the other is some sort of brine solution. Now, we use big blocks of salt that are in the side tank there. In some parts of the country, you use rock salt crystals.
So those are just as good as the big block.
Absolutely. Here's some pellets, a little different shape, but all works the same.
And these look like crystals as well.
They are crystals, but they have an additive in them to help remove iron. In many places, when you get your water up out of a well, you can have an iron issue, and that helps to clean the iron off of these resin beads.
All right, great to know. Thank you,
All
Richard.
right, thank you. All right, guys, you're going to be so glad that I had my credit card with me.
Finally.
I'm sitting on an airplane, and I have this unbelievable urge to shop.
And who doesn't?
I reach into that seat back pocket, and there is this catalog filled with everything that we all need. So I bought it. Look at this baby. It's a gray globe. Sits into this motorized base right there, and that motor spins it right around. What is it?
Well, you bought it, you tell us.
I'm not telling you yet.
I know exactly what it is because I've got one of these. And, well, you guys all know what we do on Saturdays.
What exactly?
Well, no, Saturdays is a day to wash and condition and to volumize. And, well, for some of us, to detangle and to frost your tips. Now, you could spend a lot of time doing all those things, or you could just do this. Going in. Turn around, Tommy.
Oh, that'll just touch it. Touch that nice.
Wash, condition, volumize, and...
Brian?
You look exactly the same.
Well, you only get so much for a airport catalog.
You're not even close.
What do you mean?
I actually bought one of these too in the airport.
You did?
It works wonderful. Not for that. I actually have 3 different versions. I have a larger version to mix 3 bags of concrete.
Okay.
I have a smaller version that makes 1 bag of concrete, and this is a 1 shovel mixer
For the little jobs.
for the little job.
Is
Really,
that all
though?
you do is mix concrete?
Throw the shovel of concrete in there, turn it on. About a day and a half, 2 days later, I come back and it's ready to use.
Useful.
Love it.
It may not be green, but it has to do with gardening. The toughest job every spring is to get your plants started. You get your little pot, you put your little seed in
That's the
there,
part I
water, 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 and nothing
It just
happens.
takes forever.
So what you do is you take this and put it
how you do it.
inside. And in 15 seconds, with the right radiation, water, and sunlight, you take out your plant, and look at that beauty.
Hey, that's pretty good.
Glad I bought that baby. Huh?
Hey, Richard,
Nice.
you can use that for medicinal purposes.
All right, let me tell you what it is.
Please.
All right, oops. Oh, here you go, Reg.
Oh, sorry. Where'd that come from?
This is actually a self-cleaning kitty litter box.
What?
All right? So your little cat, it's time.
Kitty litter?
He steps up into here. He goes in, does what he's got to do. All right? Comes back out. About 7 minutes later, this thing starts spinning around. Waste drops right down to the bottom. Everybody's happy.
Not everybody. I have my head in this thing.
You smell good.
Roger, welcome to my backyard. We got a great property here, about half an acre of land, and it is right on the Charles River. I have a problem with my arborvitaes. They are dying off from the bottom up to almost 5-6 feet. You see it's very lush up here, but it's very, very flimsy down here, and it's still green. I can't see any fungus or any bugs, but it's dying off, it's dried out, it's a very sparse growth, and I really don't know what to do about it, so I hope you have some suggestions for me.
Well, Jurgen, your problem isn't caused by insects, and it's not a fungus disease. You have a problem with Bambi.
Bambi?
The deer are eating your tree.
Oh, okay.
Now, during the wintertime, December to April, the deer lose their food source. So they come looking for anything they can find when they're starving, including your arborvitae.
Well, that makes sense. We have seen deer before here. It's just surprising that this has never happened before in the 6 winters that we've been here before.
It can depend on the amount of snow. It can depend on the deer density. Sometimes they just move into a certain area. But what we're going to do is we're going to put up deer netting, and that's physically going to keep them from getting to your tree.
Okay, so is that going to look like a construction site? Is that a permanent obstruction?
No, it's not going to look that bad, and it's seasonal, from December to April every year to keep them away from the tree. Now, before we do that, look at this tree. It looks so nice and healthy on the top.
Yes.
And look how chewed up it is down here. Left on its own, this is just going to keep growing out, and the bottom will never catch up, and the tree will not look great. What I want to do is come in with some hand pruners and cut back the top of the tree and slow down that growth and let the bottom catch up with it.
So what you're saying is that the top grows faster than this damaged area here?
It will, that's right. So we just need to shape up the top, and then you'll have a nice, beautiful tree again.
Okay.
All right, pruning this tree, we're going to use hand pruners. Now, when you prune a tree with hand pruners, you want to always have the blade towards the tree. So when you make a cut, you're going to leave a nice, clean stem cut behind.
Okay.
Now, you don't want to make a cut in the middle of a stem. You want to make it as close as you can to one of the leaves, leaving a clean edge. So we're going to cut like that. You can see we're going to take off about 4 inches off of that one.
All right.
Make a cut, and you can't even tell where we made the cut.
Okay.
So we're going to randomly go through this tree, removing pieces 4 to 6 inches long, or if you get a big piece that's longer like this one, I'm going to go in here, see this big top piece? I'm down another branch, I'm going to make a cut right there. Now, Jurgen, I want you to remember that pruning is like getting a haircut. If you do it badly, sooner or later it'll grow out.
I wouldn't know.
Now, the other thing to remember that this is the shady side of the tree.
Right.
So I usually prune a little lighter on the shady side of the tree because it's not going to get as much sun, it's not going to grow as fast.
I see.
Now, the great thing about this orchard ladder is because it has a single leg in the back, it's essentially a tripod. It allows me to get in right close to my work, and the closer I am, the faster I can do my work and the better job I can do.
All right.
Now, this is something you're going to have to do for probably 2 or 3 years. I don't want to cut this back so far that it looks funny, but we'll have to keep this pruned until the bottom catches up to it. So like I said, you may have to repeat this pruning to get the bottom to catch up.
Makes sense.
Jurgen, I like to have fencing that's going to go up 6 feet high because that's how high a deer could easily reach up if it wanted to.
Okay.
What we have here is a roll that's 3 feet wide, but it's folded in half. When we unfold it, it's going to be 6 feet wide.
I see.
Perfect for what our needs are. But to put it up, we need to drive some wooden stakes in the ground.
Okay.
What we're using are 2-inch by 2-inch oak stakes with a point on the end. Now, when I put these in, I don't want them up close to the tree because after our netting goes in, the deer could push on it, still get to the growth, or the growth could come through and they would eat it off.
And then we'll pull it and destroy the fence.
Right. So what we're going to do is put it about a foot off of the tree. We're going to drive it in place. Now, normally you'd have to go up with a sledgehammer, stand up there and knock it down about 2 feet into the ground.
Right.
But if you get that driver, we're going to use a post driver, slide it right on the end. Okay. Now, we're not going to use a level, but we're just going to try to eyeball these posts because they're temporary, but make them look nice, sort of plumb. Ready?
Yep. That's work.
Well, it's going in.
Yeah.
Hold it just a little towards you.
Yep.
Okay? I'm just going to put the top of the net over the top of the post and staple it with one staple to hold it. All right, now pull that nice and tight on the post. I'm just going to tack it. Let's go right up to the next post. Okay, just right at the top. Okay, down to the next one. We'll just trim off the waste and tack it to the post. Okay. All right, you're going to take that zip tie and feed it right through. Come all the way around. Slide it in and pull it tight. Real tight. Okay? Good. Now let's put one about 18 inches below that. Now, to hold the zip ties in place, I'm just going to put in a staple. That looks pretty good.
It does. If you step back, it's actually barely visible. I'm very impressed by that. Simple solution makes all the difference.
And it'll keep the deer away.
So, Roger, when Jurgen sent us his letter accompanied with photos, we were all looking at him, and pretty much everyone was stumped, but you went right to the deer problem. What sort of clues are you looking for to know what the problem is?
Well, the first was the problem occurred in the wintertime. There is no insect or disease that's going to affect the plant and cause that type of damage during the winter.
Gotcha. So you went right to animals.
That's right.
Well, there's a lot of animals that could be nibbling at these arborvitaes.
There is, Kevin. You take a look here. Down low on the stem, if they're bite marks that are cut off at an angle like that, it's probably a rabbit. They have very sharp teeth, and they just bite the branch off and eat the whole thing.
Gotcha.
Now, if it's down at the soil line and it's nibble marks like this, it's probably mice that get in there and chew away at the bark.
Really?
But when you have damage like this on a branch, it's caused by the deer. The deer are ruminants, and that means they're browsers. They don't have a lot of sharp teeth. They don't bite the branches off. What they do is they come in and they grab and they pull, and they rip off all the nutritious leaves, and that's what they process in their stomach.
So this right here is the telltale sign that a deer has been at work.
That and that the damage went up to about 6 feet high is a dead giveaway. One more tip. After a heavy snow, go out and check that deer fencing to make sure the weight of the snow didn't rip it down and allow deer to have access to the trees again.
All right. Good information, Roger. Thanks very much.
You're welcome.
Today's tip comes to us from Jim in Chiefland, Florida, and he's got a good idea for collecting the dust that comes from sanding drywall or maybe a piece of wood.
Whenever I'm using my palm sander, I like to connect it to the shop vac. Now, the shop vac will collect the majority of the dust, but there's always some residual dust that gets by and into the air, and you breathe it.
Most large woodworking shops have permanently installed air cleaners, and they do a terrific job.
But they make a couple of portable air cleaners. This is an interesting one right here. It's about $100. Down inside it, it has a drum-style filter right here that you want to be sure you keep clean. I'll just put that back together again. Why don't you, I'll pop it on. Throw it in there.
Oh, yeah.
Does a nice job.
Yeah, that's effective.
All right. This one actually has 2 fans. You can see the fans right in here. Mm-hmm. And then right in front of those fans is this pleated filter that you might find on a furnace.
And this pleated filter was no doubt the inspiration for Jim's tip. He says take your standard old box fan, get one of those pleated furnace filters, and just strap it to the backs of the fan using a bungee cord to hold it tight. And so long as you keep this near your work, you're not going to have any dust.
Does a good job.
Yeah, so thank you for the tip, Jim.
And for that great tip, Jim, a T-shirt.
All right, well, we'd love to hear from you if you have a tip or questions about your house. So keep your letters and your emails coming. Until next time, I'm Kevin O'Connor.
I'm Tom Silva.
I'm Richard Dewey.
And I'm Roger Cook.
For Ask This Old House.
I am your biggest fan.
Oh, that's sweet. Oh, that's
If you have a question about your house or a tip you'd like to share, please let us know. Visit our website, pbs.org, for expert advice, step-by-step videos, and much more. Next time on Ask This Old House,
Fireplace that's outdated, the brick is old, the mortar joints are ugly.
Tom transforms a tired old firebox.
It's going to be beautiful. It's going to give it a whole new look. We got a lot of work. Let's get started by removing this brick.
Sounds good.
That's next time